Today I'm going to show you how to make these funny looking Valentine's Day whoopie pie hearts. This is my first time making these, so if I can do it, so can you. I have faith in you. To get started, we're going to need 8 tablespoons of softened, unsalted butter. I only have salted butter, so that's what I'm going to use. Add in 1 cup of brown sugar and cream until smooth. After you've given everything a good mix, add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1 egg at room temperature. Make sure those are well mixed in. The recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of red gel food coloring. That seems like an awful lot to me. I could understand using 1 tablespoon of regular water-based food coloring, but just a little bit of gel food coloring goes a long way. This is my favorite brand of gel food coloring. I use it all the time with my sugar cookie icing. So instead of 1 tablespoon, I'm going to use a little less than a full half teaspoon. I'm not too worried about it being bright red anyway. I don't need to dye all of my internal organs red, especially since nobody's gonna notice. This recipe calls for half a cup of buttermilk at room temperature. Well, I don't have any on hand, so I'm gonna swap it out for milk instead. Here's where I goofed up. I did not use room temperature milk. I straight up grabbed it out of the fridge and dumped it into my bowl. As you can see here, because it's cold, it's causing the butter to clump up in mini chunks. Big whoops. Oh well, we shall press on. I was reading the recipe's comments and someone else did the same thing, but she mentioned once she started adding in the dry ingredients, everything worked out in the end for her. So I'm not too worried. To the bowl, we're gonna add in 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder, half a teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. The recipe says to mix everything until the flour and cocoa powder are combined and not to overmix. At this point, my dough looks a bit reddish brown, so I'm going to add in just a few more drops of hot pink since I'm all out of my red food coloring. We're going to scrape the bowl and mix in any of the dry ingredients the mixer missed or couldn't reach. And since I don't have a big piping bag, I'm going to use a gallon Ziploc bag for this. The recipe suggests getting a heart-shaped cookie cutter and tracing it out on a piece of paper like this. The idea is to slide it under your parchment paper and use it as a template. So here you can see I'm filling in my heart on parchment paper. You can take a toothpick or even chopsticks and even out the dough like I'm doing here. Now, even though this looks like a heart at this stage, I did read the instructions after and it says your whoopie pies will spread during baking, which leads me to wonder if the heart is going to turn into a giant red blob later. Upon further reading, it turns out you want to make V's instead of hearts, and supposedly your V's should morph into hearts later during the baking process. So we're going to go ahead and make some V's. If anything, instead of a heart template, I would suggest printing out 2 long lines and piping your V's between those. That way you get a consistent size for all of your hearts so long as you stay in between them. Just remember, you can go over your hearts with a chopstick or a toothpick and clean up the ends. Into the oven at 350 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. I pulled mine out at the 10-minute mark. To make the filling, we're going to add in 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter at room temperature. Add in 6 ounces of cream cheese, also at room temperature, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Give everything a good mix. And 2 cups of powdered sugar. The recipe calls for 2 cups and a half cup, but I only have 2 cups of powdered sugar left, so that's what I'm going to use. I also put my cream cheese in a gallon Ziploc bag. Remember that first heart I piped and wondered if it was going to turn into a big fat blob? Well, here it is, and yep, it turned into a blob. I think the V's came out better. I probably should have made them less tall, and perhaps they would have turned out more heart-like instead of a capital letter V. Now we need to match up our hearts to similar size shaped hearts. Once you have your hearts paired up, grab your filling and pipe on a generous amount. Gently place your matching heart on top and carefully press them together. It helps to press from the middle out, otherwise you risk the chance of cracking them down the center. Depending on how big or small you make your hearts, you can end up with a ton of these little whoopie pies. I'll insert an ingredients list right here for those of you that want to make these. I did enjoy making these and I hope you give this recipe a try. I will leave a link to the recipe down in the description box below. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video and would like to see more, please like and subscribe to my channel.